part of our democracy is supposed to be and should be civic discourse, and that people should be able to engage with one another and hear each other, even if it is something that forms a kind of core belief. Students having the opportunity to engage in these things then opens them up to later discussions in post-secondary education, around the dinner table, in the voting booth, that these should all be areas in which they have expertise. And the only way to do that is provide them a space in which to engage safely in that learning. What would my mindset have to be then?
Yeah, you have to be open-minded.
Okay, so I'd have to be open-minded in order to hear what you're saying and not kind of shut down and start to ignore you because you're telling me something opposite of what I'm saying. So we have to be open-minded. That's really an awesome connection.
What's effective for classroom discussions, I think, is the idea that there's the set boundary, that there is the idea that it's supposed to be an open-minded environment, and to rebuttal against someone, it should be in a respectful manner and have evidence instead of just shouting out that they're wrong, and they should just not say what they wish to say on their perspective.
Today is a culmination of a project that first started with a very simple question. What is a major issue in your community that you would like to address? One of the biggest or most important parts of a project like this is reflection, and kind of thinking about how you've grown and what you've learned through the process, and then being able to communicate that with your peers. So today was kind of that opportunity for the kids to do that. They know how to disagree with somebody without, turning it into a debate or an argument. They know how to listen to one another. So if you notice, like, they'll say, I agreed with what you said, however, or, I heard what you said about this issue, but so they kind of have better tools of conversation now.
Discussion is a crucial element to classrooms. In pretty much every step of students' acquisition of knowledge, discussion can be a space that can be non-threatening, a space where students can air both things that they don't understand, but they can also air hypotheses that they've constructed. They can share points of view, and they can really help to process their understanding, especially before we ask them to do sometimes really high value things like writing an entire essay.
So to me, to be able to see students open up and whether I'm in the room or out of the room, they're just being honest, that's successful.
And that just comes from practice. That just comes from one student who's willing to throw their stuff out there, and that nothing bad happens to them, right? That other students step up to support them, that there's not any laughter or any condemnation or name calling or things like that. And those are the experiences that build trust. And so once you have those and people are willing to take a risk, then they're much more likely to be willing to put their ideas out there. And not that there shouldn't be processing time for them, independently, for them to just stop and think and be quiet, with themselves, but that students are much more likely to get and help to meet the objectives that you have for them and the goals that you have for them when they can do it collectively with each other.
There are some teachers and students where they don't get along, and they'll have a student will really dislike the teacher. And so what we were thinking about the suggestion box is where it could be constructive comments on it. So be really specific on it, and not just take it from the personal matters, but actually take it from others' point of view too, of how their learnings and their teachings are affecting them.
To cultivate an environment where students feel comfortable expressing their ideas, it takes some work. We don't jump into these type of discussions right away. We establish ways of communicating. My class is specifically about communication in a lot of ways. We studied a lot of rhetoric and ways to express how you feel and your opinion. A lot of whole class discussion happens in the beginning of the school year. I model a lot of ways to address certain issues or deliberate with my students, and that allows them to open up and be able to feel comfortable with their opinions as well.
Discussion kind of builds the community in a sense where we get more comfortable talking to each other. It brings us together as a classroom, as a community, you could say. We understand each other better, and we get more comfortable with each other. And like any good community, that means we're gonna work better together for the greater good of all of us.
One thing the teacher should know when conducting such discussions in class is not everyone is the same person, and everyone has a different person and different level of comfort speaking. So try giving people some space and time to open up.
There are some students who don't want to really participate or like are afraid to engage in certain discussions or like lessons because they feel, sometimes in some cases other students belittle them or they themselves feel like their question is like not relevant or like they're embarrassed to ask it, so like they don't get too engaged in the conversation because for that reason that they just might not feel that valued in the environment or setting they're in.
And the work that needs to be done in order to ensure, like at the end of the year, that students are equal players definitely begins at the start of the school year. Students carry a lot of baggage with them about damaging interactions that they've had with their peers or with teachers when it comes to discussions. And so unpacking those fears that they have and instead constructing a positive environment, but being especially really specific when it comes to engaging with their peers through discussion.
The co-pilot strategy, basically students are put into groups of 3 or 4, and in each group there is a pilot, and the remaining members would be the co-pilots. So every round of discussion, usually there might be like 3 or 4 questions that we're going to focus on. The pilot turns around and has a discussion with his or her co-pilots first for about 2 minutes usually. The co-pilots help the pilot formulate opinions and formulate a way to contribute to the larger discussion. That happens for about 2 minutes. After the 2 minutes is up, the pilots then turn around, face the other planes, and then share what was exchanged during the small group discussion. After every question, they rotate. So everybody gets a chance to sit in the pilot seat, and that gives an opportunity for everybody to contribute. And I think that's the most important aspect of discussion. Does everybody have the equal chance to contribute? Why I love this model so much is because of that support that you're getting. They're building a collaborative discussion just amongst themselves, those 3 or 4. Then it just gives the confidence for the pilot to go in and say, this is what we discussed. They know that they have the support of their co-pilots. It also gives them a chance to think about what they want to say before they just jump right in. It's really helping to utilize each other to help build that confidence.
People get to express themselves, and I think that's what engages people. Every person wants to show who they are to other people. That's what makes us human. That's what we all need in life, because if you're not able to express yourself in a place where you spend 7 hours of your day, 5 days a week, like you're gonna feel pretty disengaged, not interested in school. So these discussions allow us to get more involved, more interested, more engaged.
Having these controversial discussions can be intimidating and scary. I think it's still one of the most important things that we can help these students do. Controversy is going to always be a part of their lives, and to not give them the tools to be able to communicate and voice how they feel and have that empowerment to feel like they can make a change, I think that would be a mistake.
You may not know it, but it's a lot of stuff that we know a lot about and that we're very interested in. But if you don't give us the opportunity to have those discussions, you'll never find out about them. And you'll continue thinking that, oh, my students don't like that, my students can't talk about this. But if you at least try it and experiment with it just so it can fit your class, then, do that. At least you put your foot into the water and you've tried it.